So coming out of narcissistic abusive relationships, I had people wonder, like, how did I end up here without realizing it if I wasn't raised around a narc or any of those things? And the two most common things that I see that people do end up in narcissistic relationships is foundational in parenting, which looks like needing to abandon yourself in order to emotionally manage your parents. And the other part is much more neglect, to where even Gen X and Millennial will be like, well, that's just my childhood. And I'll go, correct. And that's why when a narc walks in, you think finally somebody sees you and you matter, and you don't realize that it's all compromised at your extension of still abandoning yourself, because you're familiar with abandoning yourself in order to make other people happy. And it doesn't feel like you're abandoning yourself if they're filling you with all this love and regard and attention. And in fact, it feels like surplus. Finally, we can share all of us, and you don't realize all the different boundary blurs. So here's the two most common things in parenting that isn't about being raised with a narc. First thing is the narcissistic extension. This is the parents that don't support the child's journey, whether it's academics or extracurricular activities, and in fact can stack more responsibilities, to like build their character. Basically, they stack the wager of resistance in order to compromise the success. So those parents that don't support the child's journey to success, but then here's the kicker: when the child does succeed, they call it being proud of them, when in reality, it's exploitation of the child's success for the parent's social value. So of course a child is going to abandon their own self in order to perform, in order to succeed, so that way they can get what they believe is pride and love and unconditional regard from the parents, because they don't know better. In fact, adults don't even realize this, that someone being proud of you is not definitive on the outcome. In fact, it's supportive in order to allow for your greatest success or greatest expression or greatest joy. Pride is foundational in the journey and not dependent on the outcome. And then if there is a successful outcome, it isn't exploitation of your successes to others for their gain. It's making sure that you feel seen and valued because they understood everything that you have gone through in order to get here. So it's much more authentic and much less performative. But how do you know that until you know that? Now you know that because you see this. So then, of course, if you are a child that has abandoned yourself to perform for love to others, here comes a narc that knows how to get you to feel seen and heard and valued. So you will happily start abandoning yourself, believing that it's actually unconditional love in order to provide for them. And then that cycle gets you in a place where eventually the abuse goes above and beyond what we're familiar with. And then we say, well, this isn't healthy. It never has been healthy, but that inability for somebody to show up in support of you felt normal until it doesn't. And then your security of attachment recreates a narrative so that way you see the red flags now. And the second thing is the neglect factor. I often find adults that don't even realize how neglected they were emotionally, verbally, and even physical love and connection ways. They just believed it to be true according to the culture, the generation, whatever that looks like. It isn't until they become parents or they do this work in therapy where they realize that there are millions of ways that a child requires co-regulation and security from the caregiver. And in that reflection, they realize there are then millions of ways within them that they had nobody show up for them. So a narc walks in and makes you feel loved and seen and safe. And of course, you're going to call that happily ever after. People don't get into relationship with narcissists because you're so utterly damaged in all of this. People get into relationship with narcissists and low battery. People get into relationship with narcissists, and I need you to hear me. It's because you're a good person, because you're able to show up for people, because you're able to give them the friendship, the partnership, the love, the family, the home, the empire, the whatever they desire. Because you're a good person, you know you can give them everything. And all you're desiring is a little bit, not even a lot, a little bit in return. So you got into a relationship with a narcissist, not because you're so utterly damaged. It's because you're a good person. And I know it doesn't feel that way, especially if you've been worn down, deteriorated in every way because of narcissistic abuse. But to heal that, I want you to consume this. Narcissists don't pick people that aren't everything above and beyond which they have desired. Hear me. For quick supply, fine, they don't care. They will get their ego fed or their dick sucked anywhere and everywhere. It is not about the person. That's quick hit, bye-bye, okay? But for the relationship, a narcissistic relationship that has abuse in it, they will not pick someone that is less than. They pick for relationship, partnership, a creation of whatever that looks like, financial partnership or life partnership. They pick someone who they believe is the greatest potential for them to get all of their needs met privately and publicly. And what they care of all is their social value. So they pick victims because the victim is more than they ever could imagine having or being. Remember that. And also remember that the moment that you stop shrinking in order to be chosen will also be the moment that you finally become available for love, regardless, friendship, platonic, romantic, any love that doesn't require you to be smaller.